Welcome. Today, our essential question is how can the people and governments of South Asia work together to solve the region's challenges? And we're really going to be focusing on India. And when we focus on the issues in South Asia today, we'll be looking at problems of population and poverty in particular. But I want to talk just a little bit about daily life in India. Most Indians have male-dominated arranged marriages, and the diet for most Indians is vegetarian. Meat is eaten in curry dishes, but it's really limited because of religious beliefs. Hindus believe that cows are sacred, so they don't eat beef. And sports that are popular in India include soccer, what they would call football, what the rest of the world calls football, field hockey, and cricket. And this is a picture here of people playing cricket. Cricket's a little bit like, looks a little bit like baseball with a flat bat, and there's only one base that you run back and forth between. So education in India is important. The Indian economy is changing. More people are working in factories and in offices. People are moving from the country, from rural areas to more urban areas. And education is really the key to change in India today. Literacy, the ability to read, has risen steadily since the 1950s. And school attendance is still, and literacy are still fairly low in rural areas and in the slums. Slums are rundown and overcrowded urban areas that are inhabited by very poor people. There are some huge slums in some of the major cities in India, and literally millions of people can live in some of these slums. Population growth is an issue that falls into and kind of continues to create more problems of poverty as well. By 2050, it's estimated that India will overtake China as the country with the largest population in the world. China is currently the largest country, has the largest population in the world. You can see that on this graph here. Here is 2010, here is 2030 estimated, and then by 2050, it's estimated that India's population will overtake China's. And you can see looking at this map, this is a map of population density in Indian states. A very dense population means that there are lots of people packed in closely together. And you can see here in the far northern part of India and in the southern part of India is where you have more than 1,000 people per square mile. So these are areas that are very crowded. Other things with population problems, South Asia has to manage population growth so that their economies can develop. If you have too many people, there is too much of a need for services. You can't focus on improving your economy. And rapid growth also means that many citizens lack life's basic necessities, including food, clothing, and shelter. So a lot of the slums in India, for example, you have very packed in, almost like shack kind of tight places. You can see this is from one of the slums in India in New Delhi. The region also has, as I said, has widespread poverty and illiteracy. So even though literacy rates are improving, illiteracy, the inability to read or write, is still a problem. Poor sanitation is an issue. We saw last week the number of people that have toilets is only like 60%. In part because of that, you have poor sanitation and a lack of health education leads to disease outbreaks. In order to keep pace with the population growth, India would have to build 127,000 new schools and 2.5 million new homes every year to keep pace with its population growth. It would need to create 4 million new jobs and produce 6 million more tons of food. So population growth is a tremendous issue. We're going to watch a little video clip about coping with India's population growth. This is from a United Nations clip. I want you to write 2 facts from the video as we're watching. So write 2 facts as you watch and put those in your notes.
Every second, someone dies in the world. Every 2 seconds, 10 children are born somewhere. Pushing global population to nearly 7 billion people this year. In India, it's causing a movement of people like 24-year-old Ranjit Kumar Singh from rural villages to big cities such as New Delhi.
I came to Delhi so that I can earn some money and give my kids new opportunities.
Experts say that within 20 years, India will overtake China as the most populous nation on the planet. Ranjit was a farmer in Bihar in northeast India, also known as the breadbasket of the country. His story is one of more than 300 million stories of people relocating and making sacrifices in search of a better life for their children. He didn't want them to grow up and become farmers like he had.
In the village, we don't have many schools and they can't get a full education.
But movement of migrants like Ranjit is a burden on already stretched state resources. Ina Singh is the assistant representative of the United Nations Population Fund in India.
The problem is that so far when migration is talked about casually, it's just assumed to be a problem for the city.
But it's also a problem for the rural areas as more and more people shift to city life. To keep up with the numbers, every decade the government of India conducts a census, the largest in the world.
The basic objective is to review the past, assess the present, and plan for the future.
Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India, Dr. C. Chandramouli.
So we present a snapshot of the entire country.
This year's census clocked India's population at a staggering 1.21 billion. Information from the census prompted the government to increase resources for social services and health care. This is good news for migrants like Ranjit. But back in his village, living conditions remain dire. As a loyal son, Ranjit continues helping his family with living expenses. Now he's encouraging some of his relatives to join him in New Delhi, where the demand for construction workers is high.
I'm bringing everyone from the village here so they can learn and they too can teach their kids.
Ranjit's younger sibling, Ranashish, decided to follow in his footsteps, moving to New Delhi. But the city's ability to sustain this rapid population shift will be the deciding factor in whether he stays or returns to his village in Bihar.
So economic forces pushed Ranjit out of his village and encouraged others to go to the city for better economic and educational opportunities. You can see on this map of the world here, this shows gross national product, or GNP per capita, which gives you an idea about the economic wealth of a country and how well off the people who live there are. So you can see in the United States that the average income per year, $15,000 or greater, obviously greater in many cases. In India, under $1,000 a year. So a tremendous, poverty is a tremendous issue. One of the things that India is trying to do is to manage their population growth. They spend nearly $1 billion a year encouraging smaller families. And in fact, India's population growth rate has declined in every census since 1981. You can see over here, this is a stamp showing one of their themes: a small family is a happy family. Programs, though, have only had limited success. Indian women tend to marry before the age of 18, especially those in rural areas, start having babies early. Poor people view children as a source of money, either in the city but begging, in the country working in the fields. Children are expected and can take care of their elderly parents. And it's people have more children to beat the high infant mortality rate. Children die at a young age. There are more children who die as babies and as young children than in the rest of the developed world. And so people have more children to try and beat that. Education, as the video that we saw, that's something some people are looking to do for their families. Education can break the cycle of poverty and raise living standards. India spends only, though, about $111 per student, per pupil, per year on education versus the US, where we spend over $12,000 a year per pupil, per student in a year. One of the things that India is looking to do is to improve female status, to improve the status of women and give them job opportunities. Studies have shown the more education women have, the better off their families and all of their society are. And better healthcare education could also lower infant mortality rates so that more babies could live. So today's output assignment has some questions for you over these notes. See today's announcement post for the questions and to answer those over today's notes. Thanks a lot. And after this, after you get that done, put everything into your virtual interactive notebook and submit it to me to be graded. Thanks a lot and take care.